A haunting sentinel stands frozen in time amid the Texas plains, Fort Phantom Hill. Its weathered stone chimneys and crumbling walls tell tales both of frontier courage and inexplicable mysteries that continue to this day. While countless historic sites dot Texas, few capture the imagination quite like this remarkably preserved fortress in Jones County. The fort's story begins in 1849, when Captain Randolph B. Marcy ventured into the untamed heart of the Comancheria, the domain of the fierce Comanche warriors. His mission: to forge a safe passage for hopeful prospectors racing toward California's glittering promises of gold. Marcy's expedition would lead to a string of protective fortresses, with Phantom Hill destined to become one of the most enigmatic. But the fort's beginnings were marked by tragedy. On a bitter November day in 1851, Lieutenant Colonel John J. Abercrombie led 5 companies of the 5th Infantry to the Clear Fork of the Brazos River. Nature herself seemed to resist their arrival. A merciless snowstorm descended upon the company, claiming the lives of 1 teamster and 20 of their animals, frozen in that first cruel night. It was an ominous start to what would become one of Texas's most haunted military outposts. Fate had dealt Abercrombie a cruel hand, and worse was yet to come. As he surveyed the desolate landscape, his heart sank. There wasn't a single tree in sight for building, and the water sources were barely fit for man or beast. His urgent dispatches warning of these dire conditions fell on deaf ears, and the orders remained unchanged. Build here, build now. But a dark irony was unfolding, unknown to anyone at the time. The entire fort, every stone, every nail, every drop of sweat, was being laid in the wrong place. General Smith, newly appointed and unfamiliar with the territory, had unwittingly altered the original plans. The fort was meant to stand proudly in Coleman County, but instead it would rise here, at the ill-fated junction of Clear Fork and Elm Creek, like a monument to military miscommunication. The price of this blunder was paid in blood and back-breaking labor. Stone had to be hauled from Elm Creek, 2 grueling miles away. Oak logs for the officers' quarters and hospital, essential for any hope of comfort, had to be dragged by straining oxen across 40 miles of hostile territory, while the guardhouse, magazine, and storehouse rose in solid stone. The rest of the buildings took shape in humble adobe, standing as permanent reminders of their builders' desperate compromises. Every brick laid was a testament to both human determination and bureaucratic folly. Even the fort's name holds whispered secrets. Never officially christened, it was merely the post on the Clear Fork of the Brazos on military documents. But the soldiers who lived there, those who survived, knew it by a more haunting title: Fort Phantom Hill. 2 chilling tales compete to explain this ghostly moniker. Some speak of a mysterious hill that rises boldly against the Texas sky when viewed from afar, only to dissolve like morning mist as travelers draw near, a geographic phantom taunting weary soldiers. Others tell of a fateful night when a terrified sentry's shot split the darkness, claiming he'd spotted an Indian warrior on the hill. But when his fellow soldiers searched, they found nothing. Not a footprint, not a trace. Perhaps, one soldier whispered, he saw something that wasn't quite human. But the real horrors at Fort Phantom Hill were far more mundane, yet no less deadly. Elm Creek mocked the soldiers with its dry riverbed, while the Clear Fork offered only brackish water that burned their throats. Even the 80-foot well they dug near the guardhouse, a feat of desperate engineering, proved treacherous and unreliable. Like a cruel joke, soldiers were forced to haul water in heavy barrels from a spring 4 miles upriver, across territory where every shadow might hide a Comanche warrior. The land's hostility revealed itself in their bodies first. Without water, no gardens could grow, and slowly the soldiers began to waste away. Scurvy turned their gums to bleeding sponges, fevers burned through their ranks, and dysentery emptied them from the inside out. Colds turned to pneumonia in the bitter Texas winters. One by one, men began to disappear, not taken by Indians or illness, but by their own desperation to escape this cursed post where loneliness and monotony were as deadly as any bullet. The despair of Fort Phantom Hill found its voice in Lieutenant Clinton W. Lear's bitter words to his wife. "A beautiful valley to look upon," he wrote, his pen perhaps trembling with barely contained fury, "is the only favorable thing I can say of this God-forsaken place." Within those few elegant lines lurked a deeper horror. They were stranded in a grove of twisted blackjack trees, mere yards from water so bitter it could barely sustain life. His final judgment fell like a hammer. Not one green sprig can we find to indicate this was ever intended for man to inhabit. Indeed, I cannot imagine that God ever intended for white man to occupy such a barren waste. Ironically, the fort's greatest fear, Indian attacks, never materialized. Instead of bloody battles, they witnessed peaceful encounters with the Comanche, Lipan, Wichita, Kiowa, and Kickapoo tribes. This quiet existence, coupled with the establishment of reservations nearby, ultimately sealed the fort's fate. On April 6, 1854, orders came to abandon the post, but Fort Phantom Hill saved its most dramatic moment for last. As the weary soldiers marched toward El Paso, someone glanced back, and there, against the Texas sky, the fort was engulfed in flames. Though some blamed Indians or Confederate forces, knowing whispers suggested a different truth. The soldiers themselves had lit the fires, a final act of vengeance against the post that had imprisoned them for so long. The flames reached toward heaven like phantom fingers, claiming the fort for the ghosts that would forever haunt its ruins. Like a ghost refusing to fade away, Fort Phantom Hill rose from its ashes in 1858 when the Southern Overland Mail Line breathed new life into its scorched walls. The Butterfield stagecoaches thundered through, their wheels stirring up dust around the same chimneys that had watched the original garrison burn. During the Civil War, Colonel James "Buck" Barry and his men made the haunted post their home, perhaps sharing their quarters with unseen residents of the past. The fort's transformation continued as the frontier changed around it. By 1871, it stood guard as a sub-post of Fort Griffin, watching as the Wild West grew tamer. But it was the buffalo trade that truly awakened the sleeping phantom. In 1876, the air filled with the sounds of commerce as hide buyers and hunters turned the ruins into a bustling trade center. A town sprouted from the fortress's bones, growing so rapidly that by 1880, over 500 souls called this ghost-touched place home. Pride swelled as Fort Phantom claimed the Jones County seat in May 1881. But, like many of the fort's dreams, this glory proved fleeting. Just 6 months later, Anson snatched away the title, marking the beginning of the end. By 1892, a witness painted a portrait of decline that read like an epitaph. One hotel, one saloon, one general store, one blacksmith shop, and 10,000 prairie dogs. The Texas and Pacific Railway had chosen Abilene, 14 miles south, leaving Fort Phantom to its spectral solitude. Yet, even in abandonment, the fort found protectors. John Guitar purchased the property in 1928, and in 1969, his grandson, Jim Alexander, ensured its preservation through the Fort Phantom Foundation, as if they understood that some places, like some spirits, deserve to linger in the pages of history forever.